We've got one final question coming from Jacob in Malaysia today. Like him, it is short and it is sweet.
Hi, my name is Jacob Mann, and I am currently living in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I just want to know what you plan on leaving for my generation.
Ivo.
I hope a runaway issue out of control. I hope that what we will see here in Copenhagen is the beginning to not only get greenhouse gas emissions under control, but also help especially developing countries deal with the inevitable impacts of climate change. So I would want to walk away from here with a radical turning point.
Bjorn.
Well, I'd like to have us tackle global warming, but unlike the last 18 years where it hadn't worked, actually smartly by investing in research and development into green energy. But also remember all the other problems we want to do, because if we just tackle global warming, we're leaving that guy pretty short-changed.
We asked the audience in the advertising break what they would want to ask of you guys. Limiting population growth, where does that fit into all of this, Thomas?
Well, my own view on that is that obviously we're going to go from 6.7 billion to 9.2 billion, according to the UN projections, and that's really going to stress everything. I don't feel like I have the right to tell anyone how many kids they should or should not have, but what I do feel is, coming from a rich, developed country, the United States of America, I have an obligation to make sure every person on this planet who wants it has the technology and education to do family planning. I think that's a moral obligation of my government.
You're just back from Africa, I know, hot off the plane, off the red eye to come to this conference. What about funding for vulnerable countries going forward? And does it worry you that funding through climate change policy might actually distract from other aid that's been going in or is sorely needed?
I worry about where that funding might be directed. I've heard of an initiative that's moving forward called RED that could potentially help preserve forests in some developing countries. On the other hand, it might not protect, it might violate indigenous people's rights, people who live in the forest. It might also have some confusion between plantations versus actual ecosystems. And so I'm concerned about this, where these monies are going and how they're going to be allocated. Tom?
It is a very important point, Daryl said. If it goes from one central bank to the other and then works its way down to the forest, that's another thing. But what you see now, I was just in the Amazon in Brazil, and Brazil is really building a system based on local governors, local entrepreneurs, and local indigenous people, that this money, if properly channeled and properly observed, I think could have a big effect in saving the forests.
You've been running this for some years now. Are you optimistic or pessimistic, Ivo?
I'm optimistic. I mean, you talked earlier about disenfranchisement. I think that it's clear that millions of people around the world really want to see this succeed. I think the leaders are beginning to listen, and I think it has to happen.
Bjorn?
Well, unfortunately, that's not what the polls are saying. Yes, there's 100,000 people out in the street. There's lots of people in here who really wants this to happen. But actually, people are turning away from this issue, partly because we're so scared. We need to get people to realize global warming is real. We need to tackle it. But unless we do it smartly, we're just not going to get people on board.
So it's about solutions at this point, is it? And do we agree or disagree that we have enough solutions?
We have enough to go a very long way to getting serious about this, yes.
Look at the price of solar and wind. They've come down from, $1 a kilowatt hour to, 12, 10 cents in some cases. I believe what we need to do, coming from a developed country, our obligation, our moral obligation, is to make the upfront investments, but not just in the research. Yeah, research is good, but research that doesn't lead to products that are deployed at scale, that move down the cost-volume learning curve so they become cheap enough for people in the developed world. That's what it's about. Just to say research is a complete cop-out.
We're going to have to leave it there, guys. We thank you very much indeed for joining us. I saw you raising your hand again, Bjorn. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
The past hour has given you just a snapshot of the views and questions from the global audience. I hope you feel we've given you an opportunity to raise your voice. Let's keep that global conversation going. Remember, it is your voice that matters. Archbishop Desmond Tutu got onto YouTube to speak on behalf of those at risk.
All scientific prognoses show that the continent of Africa will be severely hit if we do not act now. The consequences could be conflicts and instability. which are things we must avoid at any price.